On December 28, 2025, a concerned homeowner made a post on the Paranormal Encounters subreddit, seeking answers for a bizarre and unsettling discovery outside their house. The post read, "Please help. Random bare feet and snow showing up in front yard. It rained and snowed all day yesterday, so I decided to check out the backyard. I looked down and there are bare footprints around and near my car. I double-checked. It wasn't my slippers, but this was pure bare feet showing. We decided to set out a camera in the yard overnight. When we woke up, there were even more footprints, but nothing on the camera. Throughout the morning and afternoon, I was checking to see if there were more. About an hour ago, there was one more, but it was hard to tell since the snow was melting and there was a bunch of footprints to begin with." Alongside this, the original poster posted several pictures and a video clip of the prints. If the original poster's story was true, it painted a deeply alarming situation. These weren't normal tracks from someone walking casually across a yard. The spacing was unusual and inconsistent, lacking the steady rhythm you would expect from a person moving through the snow. Some of the prints were clustered near the car, while others were facing the house close to the windows, as if someone had been standing there, looking in. Strangely, none of them seemed to lead anywhere in or out of the property. At first, a lot of people in the comments treated the situation like a strange but explainable incident, with some suggesting that one of the residents might have been sleepwalking. "Check your house for carbon monoxide," one user advised. One of the residents, including you, could be doing this and not remembering due to carbon monoxide poisoning. An exposure like that can cause hallucinations and memory gaps, which might explain why someone in the house was walking outside barefoot with no recollection of doing it. A few hours later, the original poster returned to Reddit with a new update, and somehow things had grown even more mysterious than they were the last time. They confirmed that nobody in the house sleepwalks, and that none of them had even been barefoot outside since August, so the prints couldn't have come from them. They also addressed the missing footage. "Friday night, we moved the Ring doorbell camera that was at the front of the house to the backyard to catch the person who was walking around barefoot. The morning of Saturday, I go outside, and there are even more prints. Now, I check the camera, and there was not a person detected, and I did not see anybody. Even though the quality isn't great, I would definitely be able to see a grown man or a grown woman walking in our yard." Because this was posted to a paranormal subreddit, a large part of the discussion inevitably turned to spirits, skinwalkers, and mythical creatures. However, as time passed, more pragmatic users steered the conversation toward a much darker reality. "Someone is scouting your house. Time to invest in security cameras and lights," read the top comment. Another user, claiming to be a reformed burglar, explained the chilling logic behind the lack of footwear. "As a reformed bad guy, they're casing your place, or probably a peeping Tom. I would take my shoes off when in and put them back on when out. The thing is, shoe soles leave identifiable treads that can be matched in an investigation. But bare feet, or feet covered only by socks, are far harder to trace back to anyone." One user presented another possibility that was a lot more terrifying. Google Hinterkaifeck. For those unfamiliar, the 1922 Hinterkaifeck murders are one of the most notorious unsolved cases in German history, where a farmer discovered fresh footprints in the snow leading to his farmstead, but none leading away. Days later, his entire family was murdered by an intruder who had been hiding inside the home. While the possibility alone was enough to make the footprints feel much more dangerous, other users quickly pointed out significant inconsistencies in the comparison. The Hinterkaifeck footprints led directly toward the home and stopped because the killer had gone inside. The original poster's prints, however, told a different story entirely. There was no clear trail leading in or out, and nothing inside the home had been disturbed. Furthermore, the mystery of the camera capturing nothing was quickly debunked by tech-savvy users. Ring doorbell cameras do not record continuously. They only begin recording after a motion sensor is triggered. There is a well-documented delay between detection and the actual start of the footage, and the sensor can shut down for up to 30 minutes between detections. Factoring in snow, freezing temperatures, potentially weak Wi-Fi, and a camera that had just been moved, it made perfect sense why the intruder slipped by unrecorded. Weeks later, when it snowed again, the original poster confirmed that no new prints appeared. Some people did try to take the paranormal theories seriously, but the most likely reality was that whoever had been watching the house noticed the relocated camera and decided the property was no longer worth the risk. We will likely never know what exactly their intentions were. On July 20th, 2021, a Reddit user posted a chilling account on the investigative subreddit, RBI, with a disturbing title that read, "Police didn't investigate, and it's been bothering me." At around 8:30 or 8:45, I arrived home from a quick trip to town to grab a beer. The original poster began. As I got out of my car, I could hear something. I thought for a moment that I had left the TV on and was hearing it from outside. But as I walked to the front of my car and pressed the lock button on my remote, I realized that what I was hearing was screaming. At first, he thought someone was just messing around, but then a woman's voice pierced the air, screaming, "No, stop! You're hurting me. You're killing me." This was followed by an adult male voice yelling incomprehensibly, the frantic barking of a dog, and a sickening, repeated thudding noise. The original poster immediately dialed 911. The dispatcher could clearly hear the horrific audio echoing in the background and promised to send an officer. An hour passed and no one came. The screams were originating from across a narrow field near a small shack where a couple of cars were usually parked. Deeply unsettled, noting that at 41 years old, he had never heard anything so disturbing in real life, the original poster checked his security cameras. He attached 2 clips. One showed him standing outside on the phone with 911, the screams audible in the background. The second clip, taken from a backyard camera pointed at the field, captured the screaming going on for several agonizing minutes, buried just beneath the hum of an outdoor AC unit. Since the original poster lived in a rural area, early comments tried to rationalize the horror. Some suggested it could be a wild animal, as foxes are known for screams that sound disturbingly human. But the original poster rejected that immediately. "While I've never heard a fox screaming, 'Stop it, you're killing me,'" the man's voice screaming, would have been awfully deep for a fox. Other users hoped it was just a horror movie playing too loudly. But factoring in the barking dog and the repeated thuds, the community arrived at an unsettling conclusion. This was a very real, very violent domestic situation. What made the incident even more disturbing was the police response. Despite the dispatcher hearing the screams, the property was never checked that night. When the original poster followed up the next morning, he was explicitly warned not to trespass or he would be cited. Commenters immediately suspected a cover-up, theorizing the police were protecting someone they knew. The thread went silent until September 7th, when the original poster returned. "I guess they finally had a reason to go out and check the property I was trying to tell them to look at," he wrote. "There are sheriff's cars all over the place, and cops in gloves walking in and out of this garage, and one cop throwing up in the front yard." The update implied a horrific discovery, but the full picture wouldn't emerge until months later. On February 7th, 2022, the original poster returned with a final, devastating follow-up. "About 2 months later, the house it was coming from had sheriff's cars all around it," he explained. "I found out that an elderly man had taken his life via gunshot and that his son was the only person home and the person who reported it. Fast forward to last week. I was sitting at home watching YouTube when I heard gunshots. Turns out it was the sound of that son murdering his mother. The son, 40-year-old Tim Johnson II, claimed self-defense but was charged with murder." The original poster's security cameras captured the audio of the murder and his getaway vehicle, leading detectives to gather footage for a week. To think that this tragedy might have taken a much different turn, and perhaps a life could have been saved, If the police had only investigated those chilling screams captured on a neighbor's security camera months earlier. On May 1, 2015, Reddit user r.bradbury1920 made a strange post on the site, recounting a highly unsettling experience in his apartment. The post read, "Suspicions that somebody is breaking into my apartment and leaving post-it notes. On the 15th of April, I found a yellow post-it note in a handwriting that wasn't mine on my desk, reminding me of some errands I had to do, but told literally nobody about. While odd, I chalked it up to something I did in my sleep, thinking maybe in my half-awake state I scrawled it, so it didn't appear to be my handwriting. I threw it out and thought little of it. On the 19th, I found another post-it note on the back of my desk chair, in the same handwriting as the previous note, telling me to make sure I saved my documents. I was freaked out, but there were no other signs of a break-in, so I set up a webcam in my house and aimed it at my desk, and used a security camera app for it to record after detecting movement. On the 28th, I woke up to find another post-it note, this one saying, "Our landlord isn't letting me talk to you, but it's important we do." I immediately checked the webcam's folder on my computer and found nothing from the night before, but my computer's recycling bin had been emptied, which I am certain I did not do recently. This indicated someone had noticed the webcam and deleted the files, as they were saved straight to a folder on my desktop called Webcam. Today, on the 1st of May, I found another post-it note, this time on the outside of my door, with nothing written on it, and there also appeared to be post-its on many other doors in my apartment complex, all blank in varying colors. Do I have any legal recourse here? I have no proof except for the post-its, but those are written by my pen and on my post-it notes, so conceivably, I could have faked them. Would contacting the police get me in any trouble if they can't determine an outside source for this? I just want to make sure I'm not wasting anyone's time. Should I consult my landlord or those also living in the complex? Edit. I pulled up a letter I received from my landlord back when I moved in, and the handwriting is identical. Could this count as evidence? What makes this story so unsettling is how bizarre and isolating it feels. Based on the information in the post alone, it would be almost impossible for an ordinary person to figure out what was causing the mysterious post-it notes to appear. Because of this, more than a few users initially thought the uploader was making the story up or suffering from a sleep disorder. One user responded with a skeptical theory, stating, "So the handwriting is identical, and the landlord wrote that the landlord doesn't want the landlord to talk to you. You're probably sleepwalking. Also, I think you're making this up because you're not providing enough detail. Are they showing up after you wake up, so they were there at night? Did you find the post-its coming home? Did you find the one behind your desk by chance, or noticeably the same day?" The most plausible and ultimately life-saving theory came from user Kakerlak, who took the thread in a very different direction, stating, "You seem sincere, and this doesn't appear to be the plot of a Ray Bradbury story. It's possible that your landlord is leaving notes inside your apartment, but they don't make any sense in the context you're describing them. It's likely that you're writing the notes yourself, but you are forgetting. Do you use post-it notes as reminders in any other parts of your life or job? Yes, this might be a mental health issue. You might be experiencing some sort of dissociative disorder, or it might be a physical problem. You mentioned that you have a very unusual, narrow bedroom with no windows. Is there a chance that you are not getting enough ventilation when you sleep, or that there is a carbon monoxide leak in the building? A cheap CO detector, which you should have anyway, is a fast way to find out. You also have really bad headaches. You know your own medical and mental history and your other experiences. If you think these incidents might be you writing notes to yourself, there's no shame in getting someone qualified to give you an opinion. To make this deduction, Kakerlak, whose real name is Ken Roach, had dug through the original poster's older posts to find details about his narrow, windowless apartment. Carbon monoxide is an odorless gas that causes severe confusion, paranoia, and memory loss. The original poster confirmed this theory just a few minutes later with a comment reading, I have had really bad headaches, and I actually already do have a CO detector. Guess I should probably take that out of its box and plug it in. It turned out the carbon monoxide poisoning was causing him to write the notes to himself, and his confusion caused him to incorrectly set up his webcam, leading him to falsely believe files had been deleted. While this resolved the main mystery, there was one small detail that was left unanswered. Why did the landlord's handwriting match the writing on the notes? Another user pointed this out, stating, "Bit late to the thread, but how does that explain the fact that the notes had the landlord's handwriting?" A fellow Redditor offered the most logical explanation. Considering the uploader initially thought the post-its were being left there by the landlord, it's highly likely that he imitated the handwriting from the letter in his confused and potentially paranoid state. Vradberry 1920 is still fairly active on Reddit, occasionally replying to people in similar situations to help them understand the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning. Who knows, maybe one day he will clarify the handwriting mystery himself. But we know for certain that if Ken Roach hadn't replied to the post that day, the original poster's story would have ended tragically. On October 4, 2010, a Reddit user named Ked the Gypsy made a deeply concerning and odd post on the reddit.com subreddit reading, "Does this mean the FBI is after us? Me and my friend went to the mechanic today and we found this on his car. I'm pretty confident it's a tracking device by the FBI, but my friend's roommate thinks it's a bomb. Any thoughts?" Now, if this was posted without any context, people would have likely dismissed it as sheer paranoia or a prank. However, for whatever reason, the original poster was completely serious. A completely unrelated post like this left most people confused about what the strange, cylindrical object actually was. Some users wondered if it was just a piece of debris or a mechanical car part. However, most users quickly realized that Ked the Gypsy wasn't joking when he began updating the post with sincere, unsettling details. I should clarify that the FBI had an interest in my friend since his father passed away, as he was a religious Muslim leader. They've made attempts at contacting my friend to spew racist questions. My plan was to just put the device on another car or in a lake, but when you come home to two stoned people who are hearing things in the device and convinced it's a bomb, you just gotta be sure. But that's when the post took a disturbing turn. One user, rather than brushing it off, identified the hardware with terrifying accuracy. "It's a Guardian ST820, the comment read, quickly rising to the top of the thread. It's a GPS tracking unit made by the company Cobham. The product line is called Orion. Sales are restricted to Army and law enforcement. Too long didn't read. Yes, FBI or police is after you." At this point, people wanted answers. Other Redditors joined the thread, questioning the legality of secretly tracking someone who presumably didn't have a criminal background. One user chimed in with a reality check that made everything way more unsettling. It was recently ruled that if your car is in your driveway, it's in a public place, and the police can put any kind of tracking device they like on it. Welcome to the free world. After learning about his sheer helplessness, users began urging the original poster to seek immediate legal counsel. Just 2 days later, on October 7th, Ked the Gypsy posted a final, chilling update. "The FBI is actually now trying to get in touch with me, so as not to anger our government agency any more than I already have. I won't be posting a lot about that." The story had blown up, catching the attention of Wired.com. According to their research, the original poster's friend was 20-year-old Yasir Afifi. Because of the government's perception of his late father's work in the Muslim community, Yasir had been on a federal watch list. Less than 48 hours after the Reddit post went live, a half-dozen FBI agents descended on Yasir's house in Santa Clara. They demanded their tracker back and made it clear they knew his entire life, his restaurant habits, his recent layoff, and an upcoming trip to Dubai. The catalyst? An anonymous tip regarding a casual, joking blog post Khaled had made online about a mall or a bomb. Ultimately, the FBI left them alone, but the ordeal caught the attention of the ACLU. The terrifying situation these two friends stumbled into ended up becoming a landmark case to challenge the very laws that allowed the government to watch them in the first place. On the 21st of April 2016, a Reddit user made a deeply concerning post in the Black Ops subreddit with a strange, highly specific question. Why would there be 30-ish Wi-Fi networks seemingly emanating from under a concrete pad? Now, as far as internet mystery stories go, this is exactly the kind of setup that draws people in. Someone stumbles upon an anomaly, asks for advice, and the internet works together to solve it. The user explained that he had been living on a semi-urban farm property in Hawaii for a few months. During his time there, he noticed several unusual things he chose to keep to himself, but one anomaly was simply too bizarre to ignore. A cluster of about 25 to 30 low-strength Wi-Fi networks radiating from somewhere in the neighborhood. At first glance, living near a cluster of Wi-Fi signals isn't inherently strange. But what made this situation terrifying was that all the networks shared the exact same signal strength, peaking at a singular point. Even more unnervingly, they seemed to be originating from entirely underground, specifically from beneath a seemingly mundane concrete pad meant to cover gravel and dirt. To make sure he wasn't just experiencing a bizarre coincidence, the user walked in circles around the property, using a Wi-Fi analyzer. He confirmed that the further he walked from the center of the concrete pad, the weaker the signals became. And if that wasn't weird enough, the network names would automatically scramble and change every 5 minutes. Unlike most posts where users simply speculate, this original poster was methodical. He rented a thermal imaging device to scan the ground and found a distinct, concentrated hotspot on the concrete pad. He then drilled several holes into the pad, one directly over the hotspot and a few others as controls, and filled them with water. To his surprise, only the hole directly above the heat signature drained into the earth. The others simply overflowed. Naturally, people in the comments started trying to help the original poster figure out what was going on. They asked if there was any massive power source nearby. The user replied that while there were disconnected power lines leading away from the city's main grid, they oddly fed into a steel frame building owned by a wealthy neighbor. He also provided historical context, noting the mountain area had been heavily utilized by the military during World War II, leading him to believe an undocumented underground facility remained active beneath his feet. As the thread progressed, the user uploaded photos that validated his claims, images of a multi-breaker setup routing under the asphalt, the exact hole that drained the water, and an industrial bucket that he noted resembled the grim body disposal equipment from Breaking Bad. He even proved that the concrete pad was twice as thick as surrounding areas, laced with hardened river rocks to prevent excavation. But that's when the post took a disturbing turn. The thread quickly devolved into intense espionage speculation. The original poster began linking his real-life former boss to a mysterious eBay seller named Shay Bay, an account known for selling bizarre, faulty hard drives. When the original poster made this connection public, the eBay account was suddenly set to private, implying the owner knew they were being watched. The original poster confidently told the thread he was in a pretty good spot and wouldn't be taken easily. The community soon linked the eBay account to Pizzagate, a massive political conspiracy theory sweeping the internet at the time. However, the reality behind the situation was potentially a lot more tragic. Sometime later, the original user's old boss actually found the thread and left a comment. He explained that the original poster had been suffering from severe mental health issues, detailing an incident where the original poster had violently ripped down a ceiling fan because he believed hidden cameras were inside it. There was no grand conspiracy. The original poster had simply hallucinated the connections between his boss, the eBay seller, and the Wi-Fi. But the most unsettling part is that we will probably never know the absolute truth. While the mental health explanation makes sense of the paranoia, It doesn't explain the very real photos of the structural anomalies, the thermal hotspots, or the changing Wi-Fi signals. To this day, the mystery of the Hawaiian farm remains unsolved.